Good morning, everybody. It's Mrs. Sanwick. I'm coming to you from Sequoia State Park. I have such a fun book for you today. This book, I don't know if you remember or not, but we did another book by this author and illustrator, Janet Stevens, and I told you that I'd had her to the school that I was the librarian at several times and just love her to death. She lives in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm from Colorado. So this book, however, she wrote and illustrated with her sister, Susan Stevens. So this book is by Janet Stevens and Susan Stevens. And the name of our book today is The Great Fuzz Frenzy. Oh, this dog looks so much like my dog. And you know what Janet told me? She told me that this is actually an illustration of her real dog. She just loves her big dog. He's a big golden retriever. Oh, looky there. And he is ball obsessed. Look at that. He always has a ball in his mouth. And she even dedicated the book to her dog. And her dog's name is Violet. Violet! Violet, where's your ball? What did you do with it? And down it went. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Run, run for your life. Thump, thump, thump. Watch out below. Rumble, rumble. Help, help, help. Plunk it went. There it sat, perfectly still. Sorry, gotta put this page back in. Perfectly still. The prairie dogs waited. They were quiet. They were still. Slowly, slowly they crept out, inch by inch, dog by dog. What is it? It's a thing. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? A round thing. A strange thing. A scary thing. What should we do? Don't touch it. Shh. Is it alive? Stand back, boomed a big voice. You act like gutless groundhogs, afraid of your own shadow. Oh no, it's Big Bark. Big Mouth is more like it. He's the meanest dog around. I thought he left town. Well, I'm back, growled Big Bark. So out of my way and let me have a look at this thing. But before anyone could move, little Pipsqueak raced past Big Bark, reached out and poked the big round thing. No, yelled the crowd. It's Fuzzy, said Pip. Oh, the crowd gasped. A tiny piece of fuzz was caught in Pip's claw. She looked at it. She turned it. She sniffed it. Then she put it on her head. Look at me, she said. Quit hamming it up, you half-pint hamster, snarled Big Bark. I'm the one that's in charge here. But those prairie dogs, they didn't listen. They had to have fuzz. I like it. Me too. I want some. Do you? Oh, yes. So do I. So do we. So do they. Big Bark, move over and get out of our way. They charged past him, and they started to grab and grab and grab at the fuzz. The prairie dogs pulled it, they puffed it, they stretched it, they fluffed it, and tucked it, and twirled it, and spiked it, and swirled it. They fuzzed their ears. They fuzzed their heads. They fuzzed their noses. They fuzzed their feet, their tails, and their toeses. Big Bark was beside himself. Listen to me, you ridiculous rodents. Stop this fuzzy foolishness. But these prairie dogs, they didn't listen. They were busy being hot dogs and silly dogs and corny dogs and frilly dogs, top dogs and buddy dogs and super dogs and buddy dogs. They're all nuts, you squirrely fuzz freaks, yelled Big Bark, storming off. Look at him. Can you see there's the bunny one right there with the ears? And one's a ballerina. News of the fuzz spread from hole to hole, burrow to burrow, town to town. Soon prairie dogs from everywhere were coming to see that fuzz. They came, they saw, they picked. They twisted and braided it and danced and paraded it. It was a fuzz frenzy, a fuzz fiesta, a fuzz fandango. The whole prairie was abuzz about the fuzz. They picked and pruned and pulled and pinched. They pinched and pulled and pruned and picked until the fuzz ran out. That big round thing was fuzzless. Naked as a plucked chicken it was. Some prairie dogs got a lot of fuzz. Some got a little. Some got no fuzz at all. And they were mad. Give me that fuzz. Why? Because it's my fuzz. Well, it was. Get that fuzz. Get that fuzz. Pulling and grabbing and swiping and nabbing and poking and jabbing. It was a war. War between the fuzzes and the fuzz nuts. Their peaceful town was a battleground. It was a fuzz fight, a fuzz feud, a fuzz fiasco. I started this, moaned Pipsqueak. I have to do something. Everyone stop, stop fighting. I don't want you to fight. But those prairie dogs, they didn't listen. The battle raged on, friend against friend, cousin against cousin, dog against dog, until no one was left standing. They were pooped, fuzzed out, fast asleep. Hours later, the prairie dogs began to stir. Uh-oh, where's the fuzz? I don't know. Where did it go? Oh, someone has stolen all of our fuzz. Who did? He did. She did. No, you did. Ah! I did, barked a big voice from above. I stole your fuzz. The prairie dogs froze. Then they raced up the long tunnel, and there stood Big Bark, covered with fuzz from head to toe. I'm the king of the fuzz, he snarled. Do you hear me? I am the king. Swoop. The whole sky went black. What happened? Where's Big Bark? Look! And there he was, high above their heads, dangling from the talons of an eagle. No more Big Bark, the crowd cheered. Yay! No, don't yay. He's one of us, yelled Pip. We have to save him. How would you like to be an eagle's lunch? No, the crowd yelled, no. Big Bark, wiggle free, the prairie dog shouted. Shake loose. You can do it. Hurry, we'll catch you. Big Bark twisted and turned and wormed and squirmed. At last, he was free of the fuzz. Yay, the crowd cheered. Big Bark fell faster and faster and faster. No, the prairie dogs scattered. Get back here, yelled Pip. Quick, make a circle, hold out your paws. They ran left, they ran right, then back left, then plop. You saved me, Big Bark cried out. But I stole your fuzz and now it's gone forever. Good, said Pipsqueak. Fuzz is trouble, right? Yay, the crowd cheered. Friend hugged friend. Cousin hugged cousin. Dog hugged dog. We don't need fuzz, said Pip. But with Eagle around, what we do need is a watchdog with a big bark. Big Bark rose up. his hind legs, eagle's back. Bark! This is not a test. This is not a test. Bark, bark, bark! All below, this is not a test. The prairie dogs raced down, down, down the long tunnel. Whew. That was close. We made it. 3 cheers for Big Bark, the best watchdog ever. Yip, yip, yay, yip, yip, yay. Just doing my job, Big Bark smiled. Are we ever getting tangled up with Fuzz again? Cried Pipsqueak. No, no, the crowd yelled. No more Fuzz, no more Fuzz. And from that day forward, the prairie dogs lived happily and fuzzlessly ever after. Uh-oh. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed our book today, and I will be with you next week. And right now, Ranger Angelina has some things to talk to you about, like balls going down and hurting the animals. So here she is.
Good morning. Okay, so Mrs. Sanwick always has really good lessons for us, and a lot of times we do crafts afterward. But today we thought it would be a good time to talk about things like fuzz and balls and dogs around our nature center and our animals. And so we're going to take today to talk about something kind of gross, trash. And so we have trash of our own because we work at the nature center. So we always have trash. It's readily available. And we wanted to talk about some things that people throw into our pens. Sometimes it's on purpose and sometimes it's an accident. And sometimes we just don't know any better and so we do it and maybe we don't think about the repercussions. What that means is we don't think how our actions might negatively impact our animals here. So a few things I wanted to start with are things that we have found in the last 2 weeks inside of our pens. One thing is one of our maps. We found this in Bixby's pen. Well, Bixby's a beaver and he can't read, and even if he could, he already knows his way around the park, so he doesn't need a map. And so what probably happened is someone was leaning over the fence to try and look at him and dropped their map. And that might not seem like a big deal, but what if Bixby tried to eat it? Or what if one of our turtles tried to eat it? So luckily I found it the next morning. Another thing is gum. This is such a bad thing around the park and in a lot of public spaces, even like your city parks or parking lots. There is someone's blue gum inside with our turtles. And if those turtles saw it, it looks a whole lot like their little turtle pellets that they get. And we don't want anyone besides us feeding our animals. And that's not because we don't want you to have fun or we don't want you to share your food, but there's some food that our animals can't have. So I found a lot of strawberries in with the foxes and the coyote. Well, they don't like strawberries. Believe me, I try to get them to eat their fruits and vegetables, and they don't. And so when we throw things like strawberries in with them, they start to mold, and then they attract bugs. And they stink and they're decaying inside their enclosures. And we don't know about them because we didn't put them in there. So we start to smell something stinky and we go find it. We say, do you all know where these strawberries came from? No, we haven't had strawberries. We don't feed them strawberries. And it becomes clear that some of our visitors threw strawberries in, which probably they were doing it to be nice, but again, we regulate their diets. So for example, Bixby, he's just 9 pounds. He doesn't eat very much yet. And so when people come and throw food in and he's eating that and not eating what we gave him, we think maybe he's sick. Something's wrong. He's not eating. He doesn't have an appetite. And so it's important for us to be the only ones that feed our animals. Also, there are some things that our animals can't have. For instance, grapes aren't good for canines. So you might know that your dog shouldn't eat grapes or raisins, and it's the same with our animals. So we want to make sure they're only eating things that are healthy for them. Another thing, we find a lot of water bottles. I try to be really good and bring my own water in a reusable water bottle, But I understand that sometimes that can't happen and you might bring a water bottle like this. These little tiny caps are really dangerous for some of our animals to accidentally eat them. If you have finished with your water bottle and you're going to throw it away, first of all, dump out all the water that's inside, because when you put this lid on, you're sealing that water in a plastic bottle that's not going to break down for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So it's trapping that water inside, and that water is part of our water cycle. And so if it's trapped in here, it can't be in rain or in water that we're drinking. So always dump that water out into a grassy area and then recycle your bottle. And it's a lot of times a good idea to put the lid back on your bottle when you recycle it, because those lids can get lost and not recycled properly. If you grew up in the 80s or 90s like us, you've probably seen a lot of infomercials or ad campaigns about these guys. And it's kind of a joke now that whoever did that ad cycle did a really good job, because we still cut these up. But it's still important to do that. I used to work on the beach, and I worked with birds, but I saw a lot of sea turtles. And it's not a joke that sea turtles and ducks and other birds can get their legs or their whole bodies caught in here. And this plastic is so strong, it has to hold our heavy drinks from the store. And it's also so strong that those little animals can't break free of it. So it's important to, one, cut it up, but then secondly, to make sure it goes in the trash can, all the way down in the trash can. Not just to the side where you're gonna throw it away later, or in an open trash can that maybe some raccoons are going to get into. This is another thing outside of our nature center. Along with one-time use plastic, I try really hard not to use styrofoam. This is really devastating in parks. Styrofoam doesn't break down for millions of years, and it floats. And so a lot of times it's bobbing on our lakes and washed up on our shoreline. Also these plastic straws. So Sarah went out this morning and picked up trash from our parking lot. This is one morning's worth of trash. I haven't looked at it yet. So let's go through and see what was left in our parking lot. Keep in mind we have a lot of animals here at the park. So we have our animals here at the Nature Center, but we also have a lot of animals like raccoons and possums. We have bald eagles and hawks and crows and all kinds of animals that are in our parking lot. And so they're seeing this trash and maybe thinking it's food, or maybe getting it caught on their feet. Another plastic water bottle. Some kind of zip tie thing. Some toilet paper. Straw, straw, straw. Three plastic straws. These are not good for the environment. Ring pop. Ring. A hair tie. Don't know what this is. So there's a bunch of little stuff in here that could be really dangerous to any of the animals that are in our park. We have some nests here at the Nature Center that have been used by animals, have been built by birds in the past, and then they build a new one the next year, and so we have some that we keep in the Nature Center to teach about. And this to me looks like maybe it was an oriole nest. It's a type of bird. And it is built out of fishing line and cellophane, and it even has some cigarette filters down in there. So some people might see this and think, whoa, it's so cool that those birds are using unusual materials and human materials to make their nest. And while that is kind of cool, that makes it shimmery, my first thought is those tiny little chicks that hatch out of those eggs, and they have those tiny little fragile legs. And they're trying to learn how to move, and they're trying to learn how to fly. And fishing line is meant to catch things, right? Well, every one of these little loops looks like the perfect thing to be caught around a baby bird, a chick's leg, or their throat and trap them here in this nest. And a parent bird doesn't have the dexterity, the ability to have hands or to have scissors and cut them out. So to me, this looks like a death trap for little chicks. So it's really important that we clean up all of our fishing material, hooks and bobbers, and especially all of this fishing line that we found all around the park. Here's an example of a more natural nest. So some things that we can leave out for animals. This has a lot of fur, probably deer fur, but also they love dog fur and they love even human hair. So if you're brushing your hair and you have hair left in your brush, you can put it outside and use in the springtime, and birds will use it to build their nest. This also has a lot of moss. So these are some good things to allow to accumulate in your yard or natural area. And then another thing we wanted to talk to you about are dogs. Many of you probably have dogs at home. Mrs. Sanwick has 2 dogs, Maggie and Snickerdoodle. And she likes to bring those dogs on her golf cart with her when she's riding around the park. And she has them on a leash and in their golf cart with them. And that's really important, especially here at the park. So it's important to always keep your dog on a leash. And actually, it's a rule here. You have to keep your dog on a leash. And then another rule is that you cannot have your dog around the nature center. And that's actually part of our licensing. It says that we can't have animals like dogs, cats, around our wild animals because it makes them uncomfortable. And so not only do we enforce that because it's a law and part of our licensing to be able to have the animals, but also it really obviously disturbs them. So one of the big ones is Pretty Girl and Taurus, our bald eagle and our barred owl. And these are wild animals still. So even though they've lived here for a long time and they can seem really friendly to us, they still see a dog as a predator, and it makes them really uncomfortable. Pretty Girl will fly around and act crazy, and she'll hang upside down from the top of her enclosure to the point where I can look out and see her and then scan all around to try and find the dog because I know she's reacting negatively to someone's dog in the area. Another one is Wiley, our coyote, and Wiley has very sensitive hearing, and he is easily disturbed by people yelling at him as well as dogs howling or barking. And so again, I can be inside and hear Wiley howling, and I know exactly what's wrong. And I go out and I try and find the dog. So you're welcome to bring your dog here to the park to hike on the trails with you, but you must keep them on a leash at all times. You must pick up their poop, and they cannot be around our buildings because they are state office buildings. But we hope that you can come out and have fun with them. However, remember that there are other people bringing their dogs too. So even if your dog is really well behaved, there may be other dogs who are not. So it's important to keep them on a leash and in control. If you have any questions about what's allowed here at the park or reasons why we have the rules that we do, please feel free to ask us. Because like I said, a lot of times we do things that maybe aren't right or maybe are against the rules because we just don't know why those rules are in place. So it's important to ask questions to understand why we have rules to protect our animals. And we believe that when people do know the rules and know why we have them, that they will follow them. So we hope to see you soon and come see all of our animals. They would love to see you. And we will see you next week with Mrs. Sanwick for another story.